we didn't even discuss this. Here, I'll do the intro.
All right.
And I don't even remember how we say it. Welcome to Staring into the Abyss. I'm your host, Matt Brandenburg, and with me as always...
Me, with the mist.
You know, we've done a couple of these just the two of us, yet this intro always flubs me up.
It always eludes us for some reason. I think we need the cornerstone, which is Rich.
Yes, he is the glue holding this together.
Yes, he is. He is the cosmic glue that holds us together here.
The duct tape that sticks everything together forever.
At least knows how we start an entry.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Well, as you can probably guess, it's just the two of us today, and we are discussing a little bit of a fun summary short story. You know, it's the middle of summer. I feel like we're in the exact middle, maybe. I don't know if there's an exact middle for summer, but
I mean, it seems to be like there's like the summer hell in the States right now. Like, what's up with the goddamn heat waves?
Oh, it's been wacky here. It's like there's the Hurricane Beryl went through down south, but like it brought the rain up to here in Michigan, and we had some places here in West Michigan had like 7 inches of rain this past week. It was just we got maybe about 3 or 4. Who knows? But then now it's like 90 degrees. So
it's so funny because there was this one. We have this one meteorologist here in Iceland, which we call Siggi Stormur.
Oh,
and yeah, it's like Siggi the Storm. It's funny. And he promised us, like in April, he was looking at the charts, like for like long-term weather. And he was like, oh my God, you guys, we're going to have such an amazing summer. We're going to have like sun. You're not going to want to go abroad at all. It's amazing. So in June, we got like in the north, people got hit with snowstorms.
Oh my God.
To the point that a lot of sheep died and people couldn't go anywhere.
Holy crap.
And now we have like a yellow warning when it comes to the weather because it's such a big ass storm in the west here.
Jeez.
Yeah, to the point that my mom, who is currently working like in the West Fjords, she called me yesterday and she's like, "Yeah, I'm just watching trees just being torn from the roots here. This is fun." Yeah. Now, so this is summer.
Are the summers usually like? How are the summers usually? Are they pretty like calm?
Yes and no. I mean, we always expect some kind of rain. Like we usually get rain like in June or like in the beginning of July. August is supposed to be okay, but usually it's supposed to be calm.
Yeah,
we're not supposed to have so many weather warnings or these kind of catastrophes. But then again, I'm like, I mean, climate change. This is the new reality. We have to deal with this.
Yes. Well, that and yeah, 100%. That's like I had read this article a couple months back because like Michigan, it was famous for snow in like winter time, and this is where people would come up, and like especially northern Michigan, that was all skiing, and that was like in snow sledding and dog sleds, and everything was like that was it. This is the place for that. But this article was talking about how like we're losing that within like in the next 10 to 15 years, that whole industry is just going to be gone. And they're like talking to these small towns who would get really busy during this winter, and they're like, yeah, we're dying. Like there's nobody here. We have to like people have to figure out like how to like what to do with their cabins that they would rent out, and they were like, we would be booked up for years in advance, and now we're not, and we're just it's so climate change, man, it's serious. And people aren't You know, I know that's a trumpet we all have been playing for a couple of years, but now we're really people are gonna start really seeing this insanity come up,
Yep,
and it's scary. So
it is.
so let's go to Hawaii with this
Yes,
fun story.
yes. Let's go to Hawaii. I like that.
So we're going to do our usual thing, listeners. We're going to do a little bit of media talk, and then we're going to discuss Paradise Retouched, which was a Nightmare magazine in 2021 by Marc Laidlaw. But first, we'll do the media thing. I think it's going to be a short one this week. I read book 2 of My Favorite Thing is Monsters by Emil. Oh my goodness, why am I blanking on Ferris? I'm going to tell you here in just a second. While I look this up, My Favorite Thing Monsters, it's a giant graphic novel that is, like I said, this is book 2, and it's dealing with Chicago in the 60s, and we're following this youngish girl who Karen Reyes, who, as you can guess in the title, her favorite thing is monsters, and she's drawing this book. So these two books are it was Emil Ferris. I apologize, I should have known that, but Emil Ferris. And so she loves monsters, and she's drawing this graphic novel for us to tell this story to us. And so it's all her drawings, and it looks like it's in a notebook. So the background of every page has got the horizontal lines on it, and it's all like pencil drawings with color. And she draws herself as a monster. And what she's dealing with is in her building in Chicago in the 60s, she had an older friend there who was murdered, and no one really knows what's going on, but they do. They're just, again, not telling this. I think she's 10 years old. They're not really telling her because she's only 10. And so she's investigating. But kind of while this is all going on, we're getting just this really deep, interesting dive into her family. Her brother is, we kind of figure out, is working for the mob as like a hit person. And so she's kind of, and she looks up to her brother a ton because her brother is also an artist and got her into all these monster movies. And just so you're kind of dealing with that family relationship where they're kind of the brother's kind of keeping secrets from Karen. And then you're also kind of dealing with Chicago in the 60s. So there's a lot of racial tension there. This is right around when Dr. Martin Luther King is assassinated. So you kind of have that happening in the background. But then you're also dealing with the story about this woman who was murdered, who was in Germany during World War II, and she was Jewish. And so you're kind of dealing with that aspect of it and her life. And so all these things are coming together, and book 2 kind of brings it out because there's the mystery, but then there's also other mysteries going on in the first book, and book 2 kind of helps sort of explain what's going on. And you're kind of finding out that there was another brother in the Reyes family, and the oldest brother, I don't want to spoil it. So I'll just leave it as is, but something happened. Dees is the brother, and so you're kind of getting his backstory, and he and what he did and what he's currently doing. But then you're also finding out like Karen likes girls. She as a 10-year-old, she figured out, she's like, I really like girls. So she's kind of dealing with that. And her brother's very macho, and is on one hand like, you can't like women because it's the 1960s and you just can't.
I was gonna say, I was like, it's the 60s.
So it's that time. But then also like, I love you because you're my sister and I will protect you, but like, this is not a thing you should be dealing with. And so it's just the artwork is amazing because she draws herself as a werewolf, and she's kind of in book 1, she's like throughout kind of has this like running thing where she wants a monster to bite her and to bite Dees and then their mother, because their mother ends up having cancer. And like she thinks that, well, if we turn into monsters, we'll live forever, because monsters always seem to live forever, and we'll have all the powers of monsters. So she's kind of like, her 10-year-old self is trying to process what's going on with that. But then in book 2, she's starting to realize, like, that's, the monsters don't always win, or like people are monsters, and what those people are doing to me and my brother in the town, and doing to African Americans, and doing to the homeless people, like all this stuff. She's like, maybe I don't want to deal with that. So maybe monsters aren't good. Anyway, it's funny. It's one of those things. It's similar to like Godzilla -1. Well, like if I tell, like, we'll say a normie, hey, you should really go see Godzilla -1. It's really awesome and upsetting. They're like, it's a Godzilla movie. Are you crazy? And you're like, no, you just need to see it. Like,
yeah.
You're gonna be.
I still have to watch it. So yeah.
Okay. Well, you need to see it too. But like, it's one of those movies where because it has Godzilla in the title, people are like, what the heck? Like, it's just a guy in a rubber mask or like rubber costume, and you're like, no, like, this movie's gonna make you really sad and upset and make you cry, because it's so emotional. Gut punch. It's the same for this one. When I tell somebody, you need to read My Favorite Thing is Monsters, all they see is the title Monsters and the cover, which the girl looks like a werewolf, and they're like, what? This is just a silly thing. And it's like, no, actually, this is like a really deep, like, it really doesn't have to deal with like universal monsters. It has to deal with like human monsters, and or just growing up in 1960s as a girl who realizes that she likes girls, and she's only 10, and like all of these things. And it's so much more than just universal monster werewolf thing. It's that plays a little part of it, but it's grounded all in reality. So that's so that's kind of it's one of those where you're like, you gotta look past the title and look actually that, like, oh, this is like a really deep moving book, because there's parts where it will touch you, because like, this isn't a spoiler, and it's for book 1, and book 1 came out years ago. Throughout the whole comic, you see her as this werewolf, and then at one point after the mother passes, her brother is like, I know you see yourself as a monster, but look in this mirror, and she draws herself like as a human, and it's just so touching and sad that you just can't like help but be like moved, because you're just like, oh, this poor girl is dealing with way too much.
At 10, yes, Jesus.
Yeah, it's a lot. She, like, in this book, and again, no spoilers, because I know it just came out, but she finds these tapes from the neighbor, which I'm looking up is Anka Silverberg. And so Anka is kind of dictating what happened during World War II to her. And yeah, she's only 10. She says she's looking for hints to figure out who murdered her. But like, at the same time, you're reading this and realizing, well, she's listening to this like Holocaust story, and the Anka she didn't pull any punches on what happened, which she shouldn't. People need to know these things, but it's still, you're like, this is like heartbreaking to listen to. So yeah, My Favorite Thing is Monsters, book 2. It just came out earlier this year, May, actually, just came out in May. Definitely worth it. Read book 1 first. That will make a lot of what happens in book 2 make sense. Fitlame, what about you?
I just finished one, like, I usually try to find if there's anything new from Junji Ito lately. Like, I'm trying to expand my collection. And I stumbled upon one, like a horror anthology, which had like a foreword by Junji Ito. So he did the cover of the book. It's called Betwixt.
Huh. I don't think I've heard of this.
No, and this is like by different authors, like different and artists.
Okay.
So it's both from stories that are from Japan, and there are also some that are like from the US.
Nice.
So they're like different stories about, but I think the theme of this was more like doppelgangers and the mirror world, like the parallel world. Oh. That's why which makes sense for the name Betwixt.
Yeah.
because it means in between. At first, when I was reading it, I was like, a lot of these stories are similar. What's happening? And then I was like, oh wait, never mind, because I didn't like I kind of skipped reading Junji Ito's forward. But then like it hit me, and I'm like, oh, that's why.
That's so funny.
But there were like some of the stories were kind of cool. One had like a kappa, which is like a Japanese yokai, like a spirit, malicious spirit that usually eats the souls of people that drown or like end up in a river or in a lake. And,
okay.
Yeah, it's the ones that are usually look like turtles.
Yeah.
Like they have shells and they have like a plate on their head and like a beak. And if you give them cucumbers, then they will leave you alone.
So random.
It is like, this is why I love Japanese yokai, because they're so weird.
Right?
They can be so scary, but at the same time so weird. And so it had that one, then had that story, and it kind of like ended up as a revenge story, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Then there was another, which was interesting, but it had like an open ending, and it was about a guy who could see ghosts, but he didn't really want, like, he had this kind of rule of not interacting with them because otherwise they could, attach themselves to you, and he didn't want that. He didn't know if they were harmless or malicious or not. And he went to see a movie, and it was so funny. It's like he was being really careful not to explain what movie that is, but like from the flyer and the way he described it, I'm like, bitch, just say Being John Malkovich. So he was like, yeah, it was about these people who discover a hole, and it like goes into this real life actor. And I was like, that's John Malkovich. Just say it. I don't think you're gonna be sued.
Yeah, right.
And like he also like drew the flyers from the movie, and it was kind of funny like how to see it in his style, because it did not look like John Malkovich at all. Just looked like a random Bolt guy.
It's a knockoff version.
Which is funny because when you look at John Malkovich, he has this like certain feature, like he has this piercing like gaze.
Yeah.
Like you recognize him instantly because of his eyes.
Yeah.
And like if you don't, as soon as he speaks, then you're like, oh yeah, that's John.
Oh yeah, that voice.
Like his articulation is perfect. But yeah, and in the story he starts grabbing these flyers, and he for some reason thinks it's funny to decorate his closet with the flyers, because he was like, oh, because in the movie it's kind of funny, haha. And but soon he realizes that there's a ghost in his room who won't leave him alone, and he then discovers that it has something to do with the flyers. So it's kind of like all open-ended, but it was interesting how they drew the ghost. It was really disgusting, that ghost.
Awesome.
And it's funny though, like the Japanese stores, they had like these they had the between world, but they did it with ghosts or like with spirits.
Huh.
However, with from the US side, they were a lot with the doppelganger theme.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like they had one story that happened in I want to say Scandinavia, because the names of the characters was Johan and Emil, which are Scandinavian as hell. But it doesn't. They don't specify from which town they are or something like that. But they are like going fishing on a lake, like frozen fishing. I don't know what it's called. Like what you do in the winter.
Oh yeah, ice fishing.
Ice fishing. There we go.
Yeah.
And they discovered like there's a body in the lake, and they grab the body, and then suddenly the body suddenly looks like one of them. So it's like, who am I supposed to kill and stuff like that. It's a good old trope. So
yeah.
in the end, you don't know like which was the right one.
Oh.
And the story actually does that. Like it doesn't give you any hints whether or not who was the doppelganger, who isn't. And it kind of gave off, like, the ending kind of gave off like this might be a series. Like they might continue with it, because if they do, I really hope so, because it was intriguing.
Yeah.
It's like if they could like expand on the story, that maybe like it's not just that person. There are the whole town is full of doppelgangers.
I like that.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
That would be awesome.
And there was another one who used the mirror doppelganger theme, or like the trope.
Oh yeah. That is like, I'm just thinking about it, and it's so like you it's fascinating that we're doing, like, American is more doppelganger, and Japan was doing a little bit more ghost. That's such a and the reason, like, and I'm thinking about stories and movies and stuff I've seen, and it does seem that way. We do a lot of doppelganger stuff.
You do. It's really concrete in your folklore.
It's like like, I just, like, you were talking about that one story, the ice fishing one. Owen King has a comic book series that just started, and it's called Self-Help, for anyone listening that wants to read it. And it's a doppelganger story. There's a self-help guru, and then this guy that's down on his luck, and they both look exactly the same. And so it's just funny that you bringing that up, and then, like, thinking about it, and I'm just like, oh, it's so weird. Or even like Max Boots' Maggots Screaming. That's it's a doppelganger thing.
And it's just also just really enriched in Native American culture, of course.
Yeah. I wonder.
So it's interesting how it's ingrained in you, even though you in general are not are not part of that culture.
Yeah, right. You know us, we just steal.
I mean, it's good to admit that. It's good to admit on past sins and acknowledge it. And try and move on from it.
Yeah. It's like
what I do. I usually say, like, hey, I come from Vikings. We were rapists and pillagers. I don't do that. I acknowledge that my ancestors used to do this. Yeah. It's a horrible fucking thing, but they did it.
Yeah. It's like that was in our past, but we're hoping to move on from this past.
Exactly. You have to do that. I mean, the Germans are actively doing this by reminding people about what they did. So yeah.
Yes. And calling out the horrors of what other people are doing. Exactly.
So it's interesting. I think it also, but like with Japan, because they have such an enriched spiritual culture.
Yeah.
Not only when it comes to ghosts, but also when it comes to yokai and and this has its roots in Shinto culture as well, like in the Shinto religion, because they, similar to what we Icelanders have as well, like they respect basically everything that is around them. Like they treat everything with respect.
Yeah.
Except for other countries, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a stab, but that's something that they won't acknowledge.
Yeah. So true. Oh my gosh. And yokai, man, like a couple years ago got like deep into all the yokai stuff, and it's so wild, the like different ones and what they do. It was just
it's so fascinating. You can just spend hours looking at this. I used to go like on the behalf of the Japanese embassy. I used to go and do these kind of lectures, presentations to elementary schools, like kind of basically introduce them to Japanese culture and everything.
Yeah.
And I always told them, like, first and foremost, like, hi, I fucking love folklore, and I just need to introduce you guys to these yokai because they are a doozy.
Did you say fucking introduce you to those students?
Of course. In case you didn't know, like, we Icelanders, we swear so much that it doesn't really affect us anymore. I mean, I've heard like a lot of like little kids swear, and I'm like, I just laugh.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't affect us anymore. We're like, meh. I mean, because our curse words, they're not that horrible.
Yeah.
Like all Icelandic curse words are basically related to the devil, which is so stupid because we're not Christian.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's just like I don't understand it. So yeah, and as soon as we learn fucking, we're like, ha, we're using that all the time. But anyway, so yeah, I told them about the like the yokai, and I like showed them different kinds. I used to go like, these are the most terrifying ones. Like, do not engage with these. These are like the middle ground. Like, they're scary, but if if you leave them alone and just respect them, they will leave you two alone. And then I go to the bizarre, why do these spirits exist section. And the one that I usually end with, and that's the one that gives like the most applause and the most laughs, is the yokai who has an eye up his butt.
Yeah.
Like in the anus, like in the fucking anus. It's so funny.
Makes total sense.
I can't remember at the moment like what his purpose was, but I think it was just to draw out laughs. Just like basically just like we like find any like drunk like samurais or ronins or anything like that, any kind of merchants who were just walking drunk around the road, and he would just like pull down his pants and just and moon them with the eye just to get a reaction. I think that was the reason.
It's amazing.
It's so funny.
Oh my god, I love it.
It is like, if you just want to go, you definitely like, if you are in need of like, if you want to spice up your like monsters in your stories and like that, please check out the yokais. They're so good.
Oh, 100%. I definitely have two things that they're not out, but are like in the world, but they were definitely yokai inspired, because it's just, you go down that rabbit hole and you're just like, these are so creative and interesting and so bizarre. It's like, I might as well do something with one of these.
Yeah.
It's just, you can definitely spend hours, like you said, digging into all of them. I'm trying to remember, I mean, like, just Google yokai. There's like a just like cryptids. There's like a whole like directory of yokai and just start clicking through, because there's some wacky ones.
Oh yeah. What else did you watch?
Yeah, it's tough because I'm reading this really long book right now, so I'm not really going to discuss that. But I'm let's see, I'm watching Acolyte, which I think we talked a little bit about the last time, and this is so.
How far are you into it right now?
I'm caught up, so I'm watching every week it comes out, and I think it's almost done. I'm not sure. It's so tough with Disney Plus shows because most of them are like 7 episodes, but every once in a while, like Andor, I think was 12. So every once in a while they throw in a really long one, and I'm not huge researcher or whoever just to look to see how many they're going to be. I just kind of watch it when it comes on. So anyway, I'm all caught up with it, and it's good. It's interesting, this like almost takedown of the Jedi in this, and like they sort of would do that a little bit in the movies, or if you watched the Clone Wars cartoon, they sort of like showed the differences of them all, but then also like, hey, they're not as, blessed as they make them in the original trilogy. And this one's kind of the same way, even more so, because it's just, for listeners, there's twins. One of them's maybe good, one of them's maybe bad. And there's like a whole mystery. The whole show is sort of a mystery around this thing, because these two twins kind of came from not technically witches, but sort of witches. And the Jedi came and tried to take them away, saying that these kids had force potential and they should be part of the Jedi temple. And of course, witches were like, no, these are our children. So you shouldn't take them away. And then there's like a mystery around what happens to the witches, why these two twins were separated. And you're kind of digging through that. At the same time, you also have this. They haven't technically said what he is. They make a reference to him maybe being Sith, but then he also is kind of like, that's what you would call me, kind of implying that that's not what he calls himself. Character who is training one of these twins, and he is not a good person, but like this came out I think last week or 2 weeks ago on the episode. It is our very fun character, Jason Mendoza from The Good Place. And and it's a completely different turn than what he played in The Good Place, and he is absolutely amazing in this. He's got a really creepy mask that's sort of like a
better version for Kylo Ren's mask.
100%. It's like the xenomorphs from Alien, but then also Kylo Ren-esque. It's got these teeth and no eyes.
It's how a Sith mask should be.
Yes, and it's awesome. They did some really cool shots with it, and it looks really creepy at parts. And a character puts it on at one point, and it's just pitch black, and all you can hear is breathing, and it's really creepy. But I'm enjoying it. This last episode wasn't as good, but I'm enjoying the takedown of Jedi, kind of showing like, hey, like they're not as great as we were led to believe. And not that they're doing bad, like they're not just like out murdering people, but they're like, hey, we're taking kids, and we're trying to squash other religions and all that stuff. And so you're kind of dealing with, and we're keeping secrets from everybody and all of that stuff, which is cool, because like and I'm not, there's this like weird group that loves the Empire, but like, I mean, we know what the Empire looked like in the real world, and so it's like, no, like we shouldn't like them because they're basically a Nazi like substitute, so like it's not great. But like so definitely on that side, but I also love like the concept of like no one's like infallible, and everyone isn't great, and like people should just do their thing. So it's fascinating. It's good. It's one of the better Star Wars shows. And yeah, it's fun to see it's Mandy Jacinto, I think. Manny Jacinto. It's cool to see him playing a role that's not Jason Mendoza. And also highlighting his range. We were talking before the show. I'm rewatching The Good Place, and it's so bizarre to see him play as goofy a character as he plays in The Good Place, and then to see him in this.
It's just so nice, because I keep saying this over and over again. Just put comedy actors in these roles because they can do it right.
Yes. They understand like the timing. They understand it, like expression more.
Yes, and they can deliver like the emotional weight a whole lot more. Like anytime I see Adam Sandler in a drama or in a thriller, I'm blown away by how well he can act it.
Right.
Like in Uncut Gems, I was hyperventilating because it was so fucking tense.
Yes. It's wild to like see that turn. Or like, I mean, like I remember like that first, for me, the big switch was like seeing Robin Williams go from his kind of craziness.
Oh my God, like, as a stalker in 1 Hour Photo.
Yes.
It was so unnerving.
It's just so like, and it's like, of course he was doing drama stuff in the 80s and 90s, but like to see this kind of that turn, that was like the first time where you're like, oh wait, this is good.
It's so good. And it's also the same like when you saw Elijah Wood in Sin City.
Oh God, right? Oh man,
it was such a shock for me. It was like, those eyes, they're cute eyes. Why are they devoid of soul?
Yes. Oh yeah, even like him in Eternal Sunshine of Spotless Mind, it's because that came out after like watching him as Frodo, where you're like, oh, he's just this lovable character.
Was he in Eternal Spotless? Really? Wasn't it Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey's in that too, but Elijah Wood plays one of I think Kirsten Dunst's like like co-workers at that
Oh,
place.
okay.
And like he was trying to slip into the Jim Carrey role with Kate Winslet, so he kept like, if you remember, like, but he was the one that kind of like started like trying to steal Kate Winslet from Jim Carrey.
So he's the smarmy guy.
Yeah, he played such a good smarmy guy, and it was such like a big turn to consider like it coming out with probably within the same year as Return of the King. I just remember like such a huge like turn, and you're just like, holy crap, Elijah Wood.
Yeah, I know. Like seriously, Hollywood, just keep booking the comedy actors.
Yes, 100%, because it's Jason going from Jason Mendoza, and like I know he did some stuff. I had to look it up because I was like, Good Place came out a couple years ago and ended, and I was like, what was he doing in between now and Acolyte? And he like had some small roles and stuff. He did a lot of voice acting, but this is probably one of his bigger second roles, I think. Somebody might correct me, but so yeah, he just like he was like, I'm gonna do something completely different than the extremely goofy Jason Mendoza.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying the Acolyte, and it's fun because it's sort of outside of everything else that they've been doing show wise. So you're not like, you don't see any of those characters, and you're not hearing about any of those characters, and you're not like,
it's like a refreshing thing. It's like when you were watching Andor and like there was no mention of Jedi, and you're like, this feels amazing.
Yes, exactly. Where you're like, this is just what they're doing. This is a whole separate thing that happens to be, because that was like, it's actually one of the things like I kept thinking about, because I'm a big Star Wars person. I love Star Wars. But you're like watching this, I was just like, man, maybe some of the books have, and I just haven't read them, but it's like there's such it's a universe. It's like I would be so cool to like to explore other parts of this and have the concept of the Force and everything that they set up, but you're like not.
I think it's interesting, like to have like that some of the characters like have a vague sense of like, oh yeah, there is some kind of magic thing here that people apparently can't tap into.
Yeah.
But it's like it's not available to everyone, but it's not something that we're actively seeking out.
Yeah. And
it's like we know of this, but it's like, doesn't affect us.
Yeah. Or it like that, and you're not dealing with, gee, I wonder what the Empire and the Rebels are doing. You're like, this planet is in the middle of nowhere that none of them touch, but it has all that. Like that would be such a interesting. It's such an interesting place to explore, but it seems like we've been, I mean, and it makes sense.
It does. Like it gives you more of like, how should I say, like more information, like both like more time and just like space to really explore everything without hammering down the thing like this is Star Wars, by the way.
Yeah. Remember this? Here's the lightsabers.
Like, no, but this is why I really enjoyed Andor. Like there was no lightsabers anywhere, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like they had, but you knew this was Star Wars because they were like in the beginning of the Revolution. So I was like, yeah, this is amazing. Rebellion, yeah, of course, eat the rich. I love it. Give me.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's like, show us that. Like, I think that, and I'm sure there's probably a million fanfics for like Lord of the Rings too. But it's like, Middle Earth's a big place. There's a lot of things happening. Like, show us something that's not tied to hobbits and you. I mean, you could put all of them in there, but like maybe not tied to what's happening, because it's like we know.
Speaking of Lord of the Rings, they are doing an anime.
They are? What?
Yeah, and it's about the king who basically fought at Helm's Deep.
Oh.
So it's not about him though, but it's about his daughter.
Oh, so what? Okay, what's her name? Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I can't remember. I'm not that much into Lord of the Rings lore, to be honest. I mean, I like fantasy, but I'm not that hardcore into it. So, but I saw they haven't like they like unleashed these stills, and from what I gather, it looks good. Can't remember who is doing it. It's not Ghibli, because I don't think Ghibli would ever touch this.
Yeah, probably not.
But like, it feels old school a little bit.
Huh.
So hopefully this will be interesting. I'm hoping that they will not. I mean, Japan is not known for that, but if it was like produced in America, they would hammer down the badass woman thing,
Yeah.
which is not how you should do it. So yeah, I hope they don't do that. But I do believe that Eowyn, she is mentioned in this anime. Like, I think you see her when she's a child.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's like it's about the people of Rohan.
Okay. Yeah, that would be pretty awesome to kind of see that. And an anime would be kind of cool with that.
Yeah, please, no more live action, please. You can do so much thing with animation, guys. Please. It's like it at this point. I'm really just leaning more towards animation, because you can do so much more with it. You don't have to really like with Stranger Things and with like Game of Thrones. You always had to work like, if you had child characters, they're gonna grow up.
Yeah.
But the most beautiful thing about animation, you don't have to worry about that. They can stay a child like for like 30 years. I mean, look at Pokemon.
Yeah, like look at The Simpsons.
Look at Ash. He stayed a Pokemon trainer for like 30 years. Until he finally became a Pokemon master, and they excluded him. They're like, yeah, you can be excused now. We're gonna give this to other characters now.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
So yeah, if you want to like redo Game of Thrones, do it with animation.
Right, that would be cool.
But maybe skip the 6 sex scenes, please. Yeah. I have nothing against sex scenes, but if you're gonna do it like as in the books, Daenerys is 12, guys.
Yeah.
Please don't.
Oh. Yeah, let's not do that.
This could be a whole other episode of just talking about the weird, like the good about adaptations and the bad about adaptations.
Yes. Oh my god. It's so funny. Yes, we could. Did you have anything else you wanted to cover?
No, my husband and I, we've just been watching The Office again. Nice. But I just realized that we stopped watching it just before Michael quit.
Oh, okay. So this is all new then?
We're on season 8 now, so we're almost done with the series. So, and it's been like, the only thing I can mention, I noticed that there's less rage in me since Michael left.
Oh, interesting.
Because I hate that character with a flaming passion.
Yeah,
so much that if I would ever meet Steve Carell out on the streets, I will punch him. Because I think it might have to do with me, because I am kind of a manager at the place where I work, and just my OCD brain cannot. And I probably have autism or ADHD or something, because I could not allow this kind of behavior.
Yeah.
At my workplace. Yeah. And I know you're supposed to be laughing about that, but I can't laugh at this. Yeah. And I can't laugh at all the rest of the people in the office enabling that behavior.
100%.
It drives me mad, especially the heartwarming, and I say that in quotation marks, when he was leaving, and Pam just ran all the way to the goddamn airport and hugged him. And I'm like, oh, so you're just basically forgiven all these sexual advantages that he did to you? Yeah. And all the sexual harassment that he did also on you? You're just gonna sweep that under the rug? Okay, then. I was so mad. I was like, nope, I would not have forgiven him at all.
That was.
I would have treated him like an insect. It's like, you're lucky that I'm not squashing you right now.
Definitely. That's definitely like, because I only watched through it once, and it's definitely and it's crazy because on one hand it feels like it just came out, on the other hand it's like 2000s.
Yeah,
But it was definitely a product of that time. And like
so
some of it I
much.
know was done to be exaggerated, and
Yeah, I know. Like I said, like my husband, he's like, he finds it funny. He's like, this is supposed to be funny. I'm like, no, no, I can't. I can't be, no, I really, I just can't laugh at this.
yeah.
Maybe because as some people would say, I'm too woke or something like that. But it's like, no, this is just common, decent human behavior that you're supposed to have. And you can
Yeah,
still be funny while having
yeah,
that aspect.
100, yeah, totally.
That's
Yeah.
why, that's why now with, I hope, I don't know if I'm spoiling anyone who hasn't seen The Office, but
Oh,
like
it's fine.
Andy now has become the manager, which is Ed
Yeah.
Helms, and I hated him at the beginning because he was such a butt-licking asshole.
Yeah.
But after he became manager, I was like, okay, you're a guy who is actually trying his fucking best,
Yeah.
and who is actually also being treating his employees a little bit better than Michael is. At least you're not sexually harassing every single one of them. So
Yeah.
that's good. And you're
Yeah.
also not a fucking man child. Well, he's a little bit of a man child, but he is growing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't feel as much rage when I'm watching this. I can actually laugh now.
That's good. So you said you're on season 8. I can't remember how many seasons there are.
9 seasons, so I think I have
Okay.
one season left.
So I don't think you've gotten to the meta stuff yet.
No, probably not.
Okay. Yeah, so you'll know it when it comes up. And that was because, like, I don't know, and we can get into what we're actually covering, but just like I like it was an okay, like I enjoyed it because that was what people were enjoying at the time, but it was never my like, oh, I gotta watch this and everything like that. But then like they do something in I think it's the last season, they kind of do this meta thing that, because it's probably have talked about before on the show, I'm a big fan of more weird meta kind of stuff, and they do something, and I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
spoil it because you haven't seen it, but like
Mm-hmm.
they do a turn where I was like, okay, like I'm digging what they're doing right now. And so like I really like that. And it was too bad that it was just done. And it makes sense why it was done at the end, but I enjoyed what they kind of end up doing with it. Because like, yeah, I kind of in the middle, and like you said with Steve Carell, like I kind of got just tired of the same sort of antics, and there's just stuff in it where I was like, okay, like I get why it's funny, but it just wasn't for me. But then when they get to what they do, I was like, oh, all right, I'm really digging what they're doing right now.
Okay.
But yeah,
I'll keep an eye out for that.
yeah, I think you'll see it, and you'll just from other things that I like, and I don't want to spoil the other things I like, but you'll understand.
Mm. So
Um,
shall we, instead of mourning the thing that we're not watching, we haven't watched Long Legs yet?
yeah,
Shall we dive into this vacation horror?
we should. A nice little trip to Hawaii.
Yes.
So, so you brought this story to us, and I am loving it, and it's so
It's light, right? It is kind of like a nice summer read.
yeah. And like the first section, I was like, what is this?
Right? You had no idea what this was going.
And I still am like, I think I understand, but this will be a good discussion.
Yes.
So listeners, we have a family that is renting, basically it's the Caldwell family, I should say, and they're renting like an Airbnb on a beach in Hawaii. And the father, Jeff, he breaks his toe the first day, and so he can't go on a trip, or he can't go do any of the fun stuff. So he's gonna sit back and get some work done. There's no Wi-Fi. He finds all these family pictures, and he's a graphic designer, and it's 2021, so he decides, I'm gonna play a little prank. I'm gonna take all these photos and tweak them just a little bit. and
And
then
just and just check if anyone notices.
yeah, it was like I remember like, and it's so tricky now, and it's so funny that this came out in 2021, and we're reading it now in the middle of all this AI stuff, because I remember like that was this concept. Was being a huge prank, like everywhere. I did it.
Really? What?
Yes. One of my coworkers, so long story short, I work at a medical device company, and we have these like weird like dummy things to display certain things of our products. And like it was just in our little cubicle area. And so I would take all these weird pictures with it. And I started taking the weird pictures and then photoshopping them into family photos of my coworkers and then putting them on their desk just to see if they would notice.
What? This is actually a thing.
Yes.
You guys are bored at your jobs.
Yeah. You know what? I'll describe it as fun Photoshop practice. So reading this story that came out, I was just like remembering this thing, because I remember it was like all over, like I'm sure it was on Twitter, but it was all over Reddit, people taking family photos and doing really wacky things to them. Never like the real portrait, of course. And the same in this is like he would just print it out and then put it over the picture, because you don't want to ruin somebody's actual family photo.
No, but come on though. I mean, as I read it, when he would start doing, I'm like, I mean, sure. But then I kept thinking, like, they don't have a TV in this fucking house?
Right?
It's like, why? Okay, the internet, he doesn't have the internet, which is why he decides to do this, because he is bored. But I just kept in my head, like, this is a rental house.
Yeah.
This is an Airbnb. People live in this house when others aren't renting it. There should be a TV, right?
Right. Or you're like, he's on the beach. Even if he can't swim, it's like, just
lay
out on the
beach. Yeah. And read. That's what I would do. What the? It's so weird. And it's like, and also, I like, in the first beginning of the story, the author does specify, like, hey, yeah, he broke his toe, and the way they like did the thing with the toe, like, we just taped it to the next big toe next to it. I'm like, no, because I have, like, it's been 3 years now, but I broke my toe.
Oh, jeez.
At a really weird, it's a weird fucking thing, and there's an embarrassing fucking thing what happened to me. If you guys want to laugh, I can just tell you, it was during COVID, and my husband actually had contracted COVID, so he was isolating himself in our bedroom, so I had to sleep on the couch in the living room, which was fun, and since, all the gyms were closed, I couldn't go to the gym to do my workouts. But luckily, I had like weights here in the living room, so I've been doing that. And I had just finished doing some kind of, I think, a leg workout or something like that, and I was just placing the weights right next to my legs. And then as I stood up, I managed to ram my foot on the weight.
Oh no!
Which resulted in the worst possible pain I've ever felt in my life. At first, I thought, like, oh, I knocked it up. It's not fine. And then I tried to stand up, and it was like the worst possible thing I've ever done. I've never felt this pain before, and I didn't scream, because I don't scream, because otherwise I'll be called things if I do. So I kind of kept it in, but at the same time I was battling with tears. And then my husband, he heard my whimpers, and like he stood in the door, like, is everything okay? And I'm like, nope, something's not right. I think it's fucking broken. And he's like, oh no. And then he's like, I can't come near you though, because I'm contagious. And I'm like, yeah. I know, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Oh my God.
And I was just standing, like, lying on the floor, like, oh my God, I can barely breathe. Oh my God, am I gonna pass out? This is so hard. This hurts so fucking much. And then he just had to put on, like, gloves and put on a mask and try to carefully approach me, and he's like, I can't touch you though. And I'm like, that's fine, but do you think it's broken? And he's like, if I can't touch you and I can't see what's wrong. And we were just standing there like absolute idiots. And then because he works as a radiographer, so like he had access to, x-rays and everything. And so he called his friend in the hospital and like, hey, my wife just stubbed her toe and it might be broken. Can you maybe squeeze her in? And they managed to do that like in the night. He's like, I'm sorry, but you have to drive the brakes.
Oh my God.
And it was the middle of fucking winter.
Holy crap.
With so much snow, and I had to walk there with a broken toe.
Oh, wow.
It was so bad. And they did say like, oh yeah, that's a fracture when they x-rayed it. And they're like,
Jeez.
yeah, you're gonna be it's okay. You sit at work, right? I'm like, nope, I'm on my feet for 8 hours. And he's like, well, now you're gonna be like sitting and lying down for like 4 weeks. So I'm like, fuck. And the worst thing is I had like it was like 2 months since I started the new job.
Oh no.
And I had to call the supervisor, be like, hey, funny story, I just broke my toe. I can't walk. And the guy just laughed, and then he's like, oh my God, are you serious? And I'm like, yep. Way so much fun. And I was like, I'm gonna take 4 days off just to calm down a little bit, and then I'll try to go to work. And he's like, okay, if you want to. I'm like, the hardworking Icelander in me, yes, wants to do it. So yes, when he did it stupidly with the story, like, hey, it's no big deal, like breaking a toe, it doesn't hurt. Yeah. And then it's like, no, it actually really fucking hurts. Yeah. Breaking a bone hurts.
Oh my God. Yeah, that is just a wild story.
At least I can tell it now and laugh, because It is so fucking stupid. And it's so fucking typical of me. Like, there is like a series of clumsiness that runs in my family. Like, all of our siblings, we have broken something now. And it's always with a really stupid ass story.
Yeah. But a story, so that's a plus.
Yes.
Oh my God. But yeah, it is a little odd that this is his decision, but which also I thought was odd is that he like has this thing against photos at Airbnbs.
I know, it's so funny. It's like, hey, these remind you that this is someone else's home. Like, yeah, you should have realized that when you rented the place.
Yeah, get a hotel.
Right?
So like those two things, I was just like, it's so wacky. This guy, like, and there's like, it's like a paragraph of hating on photos at Airbnbs, and it's just it's a decision. And
it's so funny. It's like and just like this sentence, it like just seeing the family photos just disturbed him on a primal level. Like, on a primal level. Are we talking about you're so fucking angry that you just want to smash them?
Yeah. It's just so weird.
It's like, this is a weird thing to get really, like, upset on a primal level.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's like photos were an invasive presence. It was like, you're in somebody else's home.
Exactly. Like, they're just hanging there doing nothing. They're inanimate objects.
Yeah, so this Jeff guy. He's a weird person.
I think he has some pent up rage, and he's just taking it out on this, which is better than doing it on his family, I suppose.
Yeah, this is true. So yeah, he goes through quite the process to get these photos out, scan them, and then starts playing with them. And he's doing fun little, I mean, like creepy things, but like fun things to these photos. He's like,
it goes deeper though. Like the more he fucks with the photos.
Yeah.
It's like he's like, it's just gonna be like little tendrils coming from the sand, but then suddenly he just like I don't like the smile on that woman's mouth. So let's just erase it altogether.
Yeah. let's change the dog into like some weird monster looking thing.
With tendrils instead of drool. And we're like, okay.
And
okay
like
then.
dead eyes and stuff.
Yeah.
So he has his fun. He puts
because
them back.
Usually if you're gonna like do a prank, would you just instead like, move the hand so it's picking his nose or something?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of prank that you would kind of expect, but this is on a sinister level. So I'm like, dude, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah, and it's definitely like the first like little bit where at one hand you're like, oh, it's a weird prank, but it's kind of funny. But then on the other hand, you're like, he's making the trees look like bones, and he's doing stuff.
Would you find it funny though? Like if you would actually see these photos, would you be laughing?
It would definitely be weird.
Yeah, I don't think I would be laughing. I would feel it's kind of more like a what the fuck moment.
Yeah, like whoever did this is disturbed.
Yes.
And so he knocks him out. Like, so he gets him just before his family gets there, and then like the rest of their little trip is fine. They fix him up. The family never notices the photos, and he forgets that he did it. And forgets to take him down when he leaves. Yeah. And so that's kind of like section 1. And section 2 is a very long email, I should say, in which we discover a bunch of weird things are happening around this area. I think specifically to the house. Yeah, to the property. Yeah. And this is when it gets really like, you're like, what is happening? Because there's just families that have stayed at the house start talking about it being a creepy house, or like waking up to feeling like there's ghosts there, or that there's bones in the sand. And
the locals not being helpful about really amping up the rumors.
Yes. And they just kind of like what you were talking about with places other than America. It's like they're very spiritual, and they have spiritual people. Well, like actually kind of half and half, I'll say, because like this property manager is kind of like, yeah, this is all just like, we know
it's just a hokum.
Yeah, it's like, it's nothing. It's like, we know not to mess with burial grounds, but like at the same time, there's a crazy lady talking about ghosts and this being a graveyard, and in the property
ground
like,
and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the Kiwi, and we're like, that's good. That's not good. It's like and like the person, like it's so funny. It's like, we know this is your property, but we also when we decided to manage this property, we made double fucking sure that this was not a sacred ground.
Yeah. And it's like, what's interesting, and like we don't need to go into too much deep stuff, but like Hawaii and just like the culture of Hawaii versus kind of America, there's a lot like it's a tumultuous time.
Definitely.
This story kind of like, I don't want to say quite dips into that toe, but like flashes a light on it, being like, the locals know all this stuff. And while I'm a property manager and like a local as well, and we just are managing properties, like we also know that like this isn't like you the owner of the house, which I don't know if the owner of the house is from Hawaii. It's not 100% clear.
No, it's like he's like it's his name is Alistair, right? Yeah, Warren Alistair.
And he lives in California. It says it right here.
Yeah. So they're not there, I think.
Yeah.
But it says here, but I reassured that before it became a vacation rental, it had been shared year-round by many generations of Alistairs. So no, they're not from around there, but they've been using this until they bought it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and like, and so like, it's just that kind of like, again, it flashes a light on like the differences between like the native Hawaiians and then Americans, but it doesn't dig deep in it. It's just enough where you're like, oh yeah, this all makes sense, and it's this interesting kind of difference between the two.
Yes. And then it goes a little bit more weirder when this Nathan Stuck comes around.
Yes.
Who
So
is
this,
like who's like an anthropologist. He's also what archaeologist
yeah,
and author and a speaker on folklore, myth, and the occult. Which is kind of funny that it's a white guy that is doing that.
yeah, and like, yeah, as a white guy, defender of threatened cultures.
Yeah, which is just basically him patting his white savior syndrome.
Yes.
It's awful. Don't ever do this
Yeah.
if you're watching this. Please don't ever do this. Leave it to the locals.
Yes. Yeah, you're not that culture, so don't pretend
No,
you're
no, this is
protecting
cultural
it.
appropriation. Please stop doing
Yeah.
that.
It's also like, so it's interesting because he he did some, like, because he's doing digging through, but like it's also kind of interesting that there, because Airbnb, that's like a website you can go look at, but that there's also like message boards dedicated to these ghost tours, and people are like using that to check Airbnb, I guess, to see what houses you can rent that have ghosts. And so that's
To
like what's
be
happening at this.
to be honest, that wouldn't surprise me if this existed in real life.
Yeah, right. It's just a
Especially
funny.
if some people like put that in a review, like in an Airbnb, like I felt something weird here, and then people would definitely there's definitely a Reddit subreddit there.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's just such a funny, like, I just love it. I just love that idea of like, and it's just funny because it's not like, and I don't know because I don't have an Airbnb, like that the or a property manager, like that they don't really know any of this is going on, and I guess it sort of makes sense. They're just there to make money and make sure the house is fine, but like
Yeah,
this whole
yeah.
like lore built around one of their own properties, it's just a fascinating idea.
I also this is funny to me though also and when he describes the property manager is describing the houses that are next to the Nene property.
Yeah.
The Volokov place, which kind of like indicates it's some Eastern European guy, and I'm like, yeah, sure, he owns a house in Hawaii.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. Or the Sigurdsson house, with two G's, by the way. We don't have two G's in this name, by the way, if this is supposed to be an Icelandic person or a Norwegian person. Again, an Icelander would not own a house in Hawaii.
Yeah.
We would typically, as it is now, we would typically own a house in Tenerife, which is in the Canary Islands, or in Spain or in Portugal, which is now all the craze. Prime example, my parents, they own a house in Portugal, for example. So they would not go to Hawaii for
Would not
this.
go all the way to Hawaii. That's
No.
a long flight.
Yes, and just the taxes there are not good for us. So no.
Yeah. But like you're pointing out, this is a sign of clearly very rich people in this neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just fascinating, this ghost house, and that our Mr. Stuck is doing an exorcism or digging, and he gets kind of, he's alive, but he kind of gets attacked by something under the sand.
And it's
Um,
like he almost just like unleashes a sinkhole.
yeah.
And it's so funny that he tends to do that when the weather is awful.
Yeah,
When
that
there's
was
a rain and everything, I was like, you not knowing topography, I guess.
right. It's
You
like,
would probably not do this during a storm.
yeah. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. And then yeah, then he left. And so like you kind of get this whole idea of some craziness happening, and then I think the official owner of the house is coming to check it out. So yeah, so that's like the second section of the story. It's just this email that's detailing all these weird things that are happening. And then we get back to the Caldwells, who decide to come back. They're not
A
staying at
year,
the
a
same
year, a
house.
year later.
Yeah, a year later. And so they're close, but they're like didn't get the same house. And our Jeff is on a walk and realizes he's walking past a place, and it is it's just is it gone? It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah, the house basically like the sinkhole swallowed it.
Yeah, so the sink house
Like
swallowed it,
the sand basically consumed it.
and there's people kind of like looking at it, and
They have scarves covering their faces.
yes, and there's a dog, and they don't really talk. He talks to them a couple
But they
of
don't.
times,
But they don't respond.
and, and then it just turns into insanity.
Yep.
It like, I guess this is, we'll spoil it. This story came out a couple years ago. It's free to read on Nightmare Magazine. Look it up. It's a fun summer read. Definitely worth it. But we're gonna spoil just a little bit now. So yeah. Turns out his Photoshop stuff came to life, which is just I don't understand.
No, I think I do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think there was actually something sacred about this place.
Ah.
And all of his sinister primal level disturbances that he kept on infueled what he was drawing, and it like made it happen.
That okay, I can see that. Because yeah, he was, I mean, as we discussed, he was quite upset about those photos.
Yeah, and all like because why else would those people be back to that place? Because they would want to know what the fuck happened to them.
Yeah. And and they would be upset.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, that makes sense. Because I was like, as I'm reading this and reading what's happening or what these people are and what's going on around the house or missing house, is just like, what? I couldn't quite. I was like, does he have magic powers and doesn't know? Is this like a cursed?
No, I
picture?
think like it said in like what we were touching upon. Like this is I think this is a nod towards the thing like that white people should stay off anything that that is something that is not their culture. And even though the property manager, her name was, what was it again, Phyllis Kanahoa, like she is a native, but she is like working through this bureaucracy. She's just doing her job, so she's not really living up to her native beliefs as much as Crazy Kate would, as they called her, basically. So she's like, because she, if she would do that, she would lose her job, because she is trying to keep these properties because she's managing them, and that's where she gets her money from. Yeah. So I don't think they did a thorough investigation of whether the property was a sacred ground or not.
That's true. They kind of mentioned that, but they didn't. Yeah, they said it was just kind of a quick search. Yeah.
So I think they're like Kate was onto something.
Yeah. And then do you think so? Now I'm trying to think back to that email, because for listeners, like, well, you get multiple, like I said, you get the multiple families that kind of think there's something going on. You get the doctor guy. Did he like wake that stuff up, or was that stuff happening and just,
Are you talking about Caldwell or Stuck?
So like Stuck, and then the other families that stayed in that house. Like, I'm just wondering if these.
I'm thinking they just they felt it more. Like, and also you can just see it like in the section 3 when he was talking to his wife, Jeff Caldwell, by the way, and she just say like, she confessed her relief. I wasn't crazy about that place anyway. I mean, the location was spectacular, but the house itself, kind of creepy. And then he's like, "Oh, do you think it has something to do with the photos?" And she's like, "No, I don't know. Like the kids didn't like it either. Just a little weird. Like something bad had happened there, or was about to."
Okay, okay. Now I'm picking it up. Mm-hmm. That makes more sense, and that explains what this is, because like theoretically these might not even be the actual people from those photos. It could just be the spirits looking like the photos. Okay, that makes more that Now I appreciate it. Because I kept like when I was reading it, I was like trying to decide. I'm like, are these actual people? And then I'm like, what happened? Like, how did he affect that? Was it like some weird, like cursed, like scanner or something like that?
Yeah,
But this makes more sense.
my interpretation is that he awakened something just with his disturbing thoughts and and creating this on the house that he was in.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Because why else would he mention like that this disturbed him on such a primal level?
Yeah, and like even when we get to this third section where he's standing, he's like, "This is right where the pictures would have been."
Yeah.
That makes more sense. But I just love the imagery of this last bit because everything he kind of photoshopped is actually happening. The woman has no mouth or has a little hole that she whistles out of. The dog is super creepy. The sand is all swirly like he did in the pictures. That's like a great, just awesome ending for this.
Yeah.
So yeah, fun little summer story, fun little vacation.
Which is a good reminder of just be respectful where you are.
Yeah.
Be respectful to the places where you're visiting.
Yes, 100%. If you're not from there and you don't know, like, just be cool. Don't be ridiculous. Like, just it'd be the same if somebody came up to your stuff and be like, I don't understand why you got whatever you got here. And so
seriously, if I ever turn my place into an Airbnb, I'm gonna curse everything.
Yes.
I'm gonna put a curse on everything, so I know that if something is stolen, that person is gonna have a really bad day.
Yes, I love it. Oh my god, that is perfect. You definitely need to do that.
I mean, it's a good word. Just put like in a big huge disclaimer. By the way, everything is cursed here, so if you try to take something, good luck with that.
And also the bonus plus side to the double 2 bonus. Hopefully they don't take anything, but then you'll be up on all those creepy Reddit boards and more people will want to stay at your place and you'll make more money.
Win-win.
It's a total win.
And then you buy more shit with the money and curse them.
Oh my god, and just like every once in a while put like a little weird thing that like looks like somebody left it behind, but then they're like, well, maybe they were cursed and they left this shoe behind on accident, like as they were running, or they disappeared into their shoe.
Yep.
This is a money-making scheme.
Isn't it? I think so. I know. Feel free to use it, listeners, and tell me all about it. I'll be searching the subreddits to see if there's anything popping up.
And like we'll scratch your back, you scratch ours. We'll make some posts about we maybe stayed at your place and maybe we saw some ghosts, and you could do the same for ours. It's win-win.
Yep.
Perfect. This is the best way. This is the best spot. We're gonna end it here.
Yes.
Where can our listeners find you, Vitlamy?
I'm on Twitter at VitlamyS, and I also have a website that I'm in the works of. I keep saying this, but I'm in the works of getting it updated. It's vitlamymistauthor.com, and I'm in the works of getting where you can buy signed copies of my books through my website.
Oh, that's awesome. I think people.
What about you?
That. I am on Twitter at BrandenburgDM, and I have a website, matt-brandenburg.com. And that's both of those things. And our Staring at the Abyss Twitter handle is at Into Staring. And I think that's all we really have to talk about. So, keep looking while you're on the beach at that weird cursed house with weird whistle ladies. Just keep staring into the abyss.